And welcome to the CNP podcast. I would be the P part, he would be the C part. Welcome to the podcast.
Grab your coffee and settle in. We're going to talk about stuff.
All sorts of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, so you get out of high school, and then what are you thinking of when you got out of high school?
Oh, I wasn't going to college, so I just went, hey, I'm just going to work and do my thing. And that lasted for a little while.
What was your thing?
My thing was
when you were
just,
18?
Back then, I majored in drinking. So, yeah. So that was my thing. So, just kind of hanging out and partying, which a lot of people want to go to college for. So, kind of have to think past that and think about your future a little bit more. And I'm like, well, I'm just kind of floundering around here. I need to go join the Navy and see the world. But the Navy doesn't tell you that the world is covered 2/3 of water. So, there's that.
There's a lot of water where you get to see.
A lot of water there, yeah.
And it all kind of looks the same.
Yeah. And somewhere down the line, probably about 40 years old or so, that I decided that, you can't really do what you want to do. I mean, yeah, some people can, but if you really want to have those doors open to you, that you need a college education, that you need a degree, especially in doing what I'm doing. You need to. There's some stuff that you gotta learn, and you gotta go to school for it. So.
And where did you end up going to school?
I went to Liberty University, and great education there. They really put it on me at Liberty, so I really appreciated that education. And being military, they're a big military supporting school, and they gave me a huge military discount there. So that was big for me. So I got to save some money.
And for you, being in ministry, you're probably never going to be really done working because your ministry is going to last your lifetime.
Right.
Wherever that takes you is his story. But some of the brightest people that I know are working on the engines on my boats, or they're, the mechanics in the world and the engineers of the world who didn't go to college for it. Like my grandfather was a draftsman. He didn't go to college, but he was an engineer. Like he built stuff. He designed tools for Ridge Tool, but he was a designer, and he didn't go to college because he didn't have time to go to college.
Right.
He was working on the farm, and then he was getting a regular job. So my grandfather on my mother's side, he didn't go to college. My grandmother didn't go to college. My mother was the first in her family to go to college, and that was really, and she wanted to be a teacher. So if you want to be a teacher, you need to go to get some schooling.
Right.
So college isn't for everybody.
Smarts is not it's not limited to book smart.
Sure. Yeah, there's a variety of forms of intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something that people don't spend enough time talking about. And that's something that college kids, if you're a college student right now, probably the most important thing you can learn when you're on your own is emotional intelligence when things don't work out the way that you thought. And there's generational differences in how people handle that. From how would a boomer handle it, how would a Gen Xer handle it. But when something would happen that would tick me off as a Gen Xer, I would just go to battle. I was gonna mix it up. I wasn't gonna be set aside. You're not gonna put Paulie in a corner. And that's
Nobody puts Paulie in a corner.
Nobody, and that's kind of the Gen Xers. One of the songs that was popular when I was in high school was "Parents Just Don't Understand," and it was kind of like how uncool our parents were.
Everybody's parents are uncool, though, aren't they?
Not anymore.
No.
I think the generational difference is now parents want to be cool, and their kids want their parents to be friends. So it's a very different style. My parents were raising me because they knew that someday they wouldn't be around.
Right.
And they wanted me to be able to handle life without them around. And as I found out, the hardest thing that ever happened to me in my life was losing my mom and then losing my dad.
Oh, okay.
In addition to losing my best friend to cancer, but losing people was the hardest thing as a young person that I had to endure. And had my parents raised me to be their buddy, then it would have been doubly hard. And we had a friendship. My father was the best man at my wedding, so we were tight. But when I was a young person growing up, and when I was in college, my parents weren't my friends. They were my parents.
Right.
They didn't become my friends until I became a parent or became more like them, and then it was, a much closer relationship.
And I think that's a big problem today too. That parents don't want to be parents; they want to be buddies with their kids, and they don't want to discipline them and do the hard work that it takes.
So you're a parent and
I'm a parent.
and you're GPOP.
I'm a GPOP.
Yep. What advice do you have for parents? How can you be a more effective parent today when kids are trying to be friends with you? How do you establish that boundary?
Oh, you got to smack them. Yeah, you got to just pow. No,
That's why they call you GPOP.
yeah. Oh no, you. I think you just have to love them through things, and you have to explain to them what's going on, and then you have to establish the boundaries too. Of I brought you into this world. I can take you out of it. That kind of thing. And we never had any problem with our kids because there was a mutual respect there that we were the parents and they were kids, and we established who we were and who they were and what we expected of them, and they never disappointed us at all, and they are great men now, and they have great families, and they have great kids, and so we have a great family. So
That's awesome.
God has blessed me with that. For so many years, didn't have a good family life, but now He has truly blessed us with a great family.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's that mutual respect there between parents and children.
Now, I was raised in a middle class environment. I go to Zillow a lot, and I check out what's my old family home worth, and my old family home today is worth about $300,000. So that's the price up in Wilmington, Delaware. They're not as going up as rapidly
Right.
as they are here in Jacksonville because people want to live here. The house up there is very, going by it, very middle class, 2,000 square feet, 4 bedrooms, enough that you can raise your 4 children in. Not really extravagant. But my parents had a giving heart. Because I was the last kid, I remember my brother, Dave, he had a minivan. He had a small business, and he used the minivan to store his computers and his parts and stuff. And when he bought a regular car, my parents gave him some money for the minivan so he could get a car. And my parents were stuck with the minivan, so guess who got the minivan? Me.
Hey man, minivans rock.
Yeah. And I remember being, I was 23, and I was a member of the Dallas Cowboys football team.
Nice.
And I remember driving around the rookie offensive line in my minivan. And we could fit 6 Dallas Cowboys in the minivan. And that helped us go to Las Colinas for the music festivals and things like that. And, I tell you what, when I was...
That's rough on the Shocks, carrying
Yeah.
defensive linemen around.
Yeah, but I was rocking a minivan, 10-inch rims. And
Yeah.
good times rolling.
Rolling on dubs.
So the point of that story is, as a young person, you do what you got to do to get by.
That's right.
If your parents are like, hey, look, Dave got rid of his minivan from work, and you don't really have a car, so here's a minivan. You can pack up your junk and you can go move to Dallas. You don't have to, because I couldn't afford a moving van.
Right.
I didn't know anything about Dallas. I just got into that van and I drove the 24 hours from Wilmington, Delaware to Dallas, Texas.
Nice.
In the minivan. If my parents had offered me like a brand new Chevy Camaro loaded up, then yeah, that would be a little bit of toxic enablement. But I got the hand-me-down minivan that kicked down from my brother all the way through my parents back to me, and really, it really helped me with my lifestyle at the time, which was I wanted to do stuff with my friends.
Right.
And the hard part about church these days is doing stuff with your friends does not apply to going to church.
Yep.
And I think the church itself, we have to do a better job of figuring out how we can meet young people where they are, because where they are is on Sunday morning is not in church right now. Right. And so I'd like to brainstorm what are some things that we can do as a church body and as Christian church proper to take Jesus to them. And everything comes through the phone, right? Everything comes through a phone. When someone says something about Jesus, and if you don't know about Jesus, you just click your phone and say, who is Jesus? And the phone tells you. And then that's pretty much what you go on.
Right.
Or you go to Wikipedia. I'm a Wikipedia addict. If something says someone's quoted or says something that I don't know about, I go to Wikipedia, and whatever it says, I tend to go with it.
Right.
So how can we reach out to college students and those who are right out of college and say, you're missing a great support system, which is a church body?
Well, yeah, and young people, college age people, they're very social. So if we don't have social things for them, then I think we're missing the boat on that.
What do college kids like?
That's a great question. What did Google tell us earlier? They like the gym.
They like the gym.
They like the gym.
They like to go work out.
Yeah.
They like food.
They like food.
Yeah.
Food's good.
You ever been to a Chipotle?
Yes.
You don't see a lot of octogenarians in the Chipotle.
No.
You see all kinds of young people storming in there, and young people don't always have the best attention spans. Not because of any character fault they have, but because you're so used to the technology that you get answers now, and everything is instant. But I'll tell you what, they'll wait in the Chipotle line for 30 minutes. And they'll stand in line, they'll check their text messages.
Yes, because they got their phones with them, yeah.
Yeah, but they'll wait in a Chipotle line 30 minutes.
Right.
But to go to a church where you might have a service for 45 minutes or an hour, that seems like too much out of the day.
Yeah. And I think church has to be fun to them too. So, I mean, I like to have fun. I like to joke around in the sermon. I think that captures people's attention to, keeps them awake. They don't want boring church.
Right. So we know if church had Chipotle.
Yes. And a gym. And played a lot of cool music all the time. Yeah.
And had socials and parties and things like that. Probably have a lot more young people.
Probably. Yeah, leave some comments down there about what you think church should look like. What should it look like to you? And how can we reach young people better?
When I was in college, I would go to church sometimes when I would go home. But when I was on the campus, I really didn't go to church. But I was a Christian, and I got born again my end of my sophomore year. And I spent a lot of time reading the Bible, but I wasn't going to church. I spent a lot of time doing service work for my fraternity, or trying to serve the football team I played on, or the ROTC program that I was in for Air Force. But I did not physically go to a church on Sunday. For some reason, it's funny because now I wake up every morning early like clockwork. But when I was younger, Sunday I was sleeping in. No matter what no matter how late I was up Saturday night, Sunday I didn't wake up till 10, And then at that point it was, where are we going to get some breakfast?
Yeah. So adults are like that too. They just don't want to get up on Sunday morning and come to church, and we have to, we have to figure out ways to draw them in.
Yeah, the hard part, in the Bible it doesn't say thou shalt go to church.
Right.
But
Hebrews does tell us not to stop meeting together.
Right. But in order to meet together, you got to go make disciples of all in all nations. You got to go out and I guess that's something that churches can do a better job of. It's all and when churches are absent on college campuses, those campuses become woke. Mm-hmm. Those campuses become almost anti-God because they say God isn't there. Right. But when the church is on campus and when the church is unabashedly on campus saying, "Oh yeah, we're here and we would love to have you, here. We want to have a meal with you. We want to break bread with you. We want to teach you about Jesus." It can transform a campus. But the dark side of our times, I think, is some of the college campus environments that are out there that, are so anti-God.
Right.
And I remember my daughter going to one of her classes, and it was a sociology class, studying groups of people. And the professor was so anti-Christian. And Taylor, she would refute Taylor a lot. And Taylor finally said, "Look, aren't these people groups important too? Shouldn't we discuss, even though you don't like their viewpoints, shouldn't we discuss the views that come from this percentage of people that do, follow Christianity?" But I think she was a little taken aback because she didn't expect that. She expected to be challenged in college, but she didn't expect to be opposed.
Right.
And there's a big difference when I was on a college campus. It was all about challenging viewpoints. So my religion classes that I took, and I had great professors. They would let you know about other world religions, and they would talk about them. And they didn't take a side on which one that was better or worse. You had to be challenged to figure out where you fit. And nowadays, it's more like, okay, well, this is the way you should think. It's woke ideology. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was a history major. I don't know when history became such a terrible thing, but human beings have done terrible things to each other since we picked the apple off the tree of knowledge. It's just been that way.
Right.
It's a troubling history, but you can't deny the history that we have.
Right, and you can't just wipe it out and pretend like it didn't exist because it doesn't fit into your mold of what you think history should be.
You should know history.
Yeah.
Because you don't want history to repeat itself. But the focus of our life should be on now.
Right.
Today, and we should be future focused. And wokeism is past focused. And it's an oppressor versus oppressed construct that really comes from Marxism, where, and back then in the mid to late 1800s, there was a lot of oppression. And over the last 200 years, 150 years, oppression went from a very oppressive world of have and have-nots to here. So we've actually shrunk that oppression gap. And now we have more, in the United States of America, we have more prosperity than in any point in human history.
Right.
We should be focused on how we can have more of that. And I think the way that we focus on, that is by loving our neighbor, which was your focus in church. We should love our neighbors. Tell me about that. Tell me about who our neighbor is and how do we love our neighbor?
Well, everybody's your neighbor, especially those that need your help. Jesus defined that when he talked about, the Good Samaritan. The people that were supposed to be those that were, going to help, like the priests and the Levites from the priestly clan, they were supposed to be the ones that came along to help this guy out. And the Samaritan, the half-breed guy that, they had animosity between, he's the guy that came along and ended up helping. So we are all each other's neighbors, and we're supposed to be helping each other out and not tearing each other down. And, it's a command that he gave us to love one another. Like, it wasn't a suggestion. It's like, hey man, it's Thursday and today's love day, right? So you can just, you can love your neighbor today, right? It's supposed to be every day. But, it's difficult. It's difficult to love your neighbor because, and we kind of got into that with forgiveness. It's, people expect you to just, and it's easy for somebody to tell you to get over something, when they haven't been through the same experience that you've been through. They just tell you, oh, well, you just need to love that person and you need to forgive that person. It's like, yeah, I understand that I need to love that person, forgive that person, but I might not be there yet. This runs deep, and, to just tell somebody, hey, you need to get over it. That's just wrong. And I think, we can only get over something that has happened to us through the Spirit. The Spirit helps us, mends our heart and helps us get over these things that have hurt us in our lives. So it's tough to love God sometimes, because why should I love God? Because God, he did this to me. It's like, no, he didn't do that to you. He allowed you to go through that so that you can depend on him. And we don't understand the big picture sometimes. We only see a little bit of it. So when he sees the big picture, and he's got a plan, and he knows what what's going to happen, and he's going to make it all good in the end. So if it's not good, it's not the end. So we need to be able to we should be striving to get to the place where we can let stuff go, and that we can love one another. Because when the Spirit allows us to, finally release, and we have to pray for that specifically, hey, Lord, release me from this so I can love this person. And I know that, we picture our enemy in our head and just go, there is no way I can love this person. But you can. And, just not doing something to somebody is love, because you really want to retaliate, because the sinful nature in us just wants to reach out and, grab somebody by the neck. But when we don't do that, when we restrain ourselves, we are actually showing love, and love does no harm to another. So it's very difficult. If you're not there yet, I totally understand it, because it's a process, and the process only comes through the Spirit. So when you have the Spirit in you, you have the power to get over it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's a process. Some people get over things quicker than other people. So, and it just depends, I think, on how deeply you've been hurt. But if we just tried a little harder to love one another like Jesus told us to, right? And he told us that was the fulfillment of the law. So when you're loving people, you're fulfilling the law. Jesus said he was the fulfillment of the law. And Jesus is pure love. So when we act like Jesus, then we're fulfilling the law too. So
Right. And we talked about how there were over 600 laws in the Old Testament. And obviously we are familiar with the Ten Commandments. Most people are familiar with the Ten Commandments, even those who aren't Christians or Jews are aware of what they are. And you had mentioned to me that if you simply love your neighbor, that you can uphold almost all of the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, because
by focusing on one thing.
Yeah. So they all these experts in the law, right? They took these 10 commandments and they built around them. It's like they put, don't steal from, your neighbor, but then don't steal this and don't steal that, and don't commit adultery, and then don't commit adultery with this person and that person, and they just kept building onto it, and it got 613 laws. And it's forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah, how many of those laws are solved by just Jesus' commandment?
Oh yeah, well, in Matthew 22, he talks about the two greatest commandments. It's love the Lord with all of your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind, and the second is love your neighbor. So all of those 10 commandments, there's only really two commandments because the first four commandments talk about relationship with God, loving God, having no gods before Him, and all that. And then the second is about the 6 commandments and how you love your neighbor. If you love your neighbor, you won't steal from him. If you love your neighbor, you won't lie to him. If you love your neighbor, you won't try to kill him or
Commit adultery against
commit adultery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 10 commandments, but it's actually 2 commandments, and he said that's the fulfillment of the law is when you love God and love your neighbor. So it's all about love, and we know that Jesus was love.
So a lot of people will say, and will challenge Christianity with the notion of, well, I'm a good person, and I do love people, I care about people,
Right.
and I do good things. So isn't that the same thing?
No. Yeah. And he wants you to be a good person, but he wants you to accept him for what he has done for you. So being a good person is not going to get you into heaven. Being a good person comes from having Jesus within you. When you accept Jesus, you get the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is the one that allows you to do these things. Now, are there good people that haven't accepted Christ? Absolutely. But these people aren't saved. And Jesus tells us that I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody comes to the Father except through me. So we have to accept him to be saved, and then through that Spirit, we can love people the way we're supposed to.
And then you ask the question, picture your greatest adversary in life, someone that's maybe done harm to you, and so I pictured a person.
Right.
I pictured a person that had, not been square with me and who I don't particularly like. Right?
Me too.
And then I thought about it, and if he was robbed, beaten by the side of the road, stripped down bare, I would help him. I would help him. I would get him a room. I would take him to Mayo. I would make sure that he, his loved ones were called. I would do what I need to do
Right.
to make sure he was okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the question becomes, did you do it because Jesus told you to do it? Or did you do it because you wanted to do it? Because you had a heart for it?
Yeah, I think it would be just my natural reaction to do so. So I would think that would be coming from the Holy Spirit, coming from the heart. It wouldn't be something like, well, I got to do it because Jesus said so. Yeah, it wouldn't be one of those. So I felt relieved that my response was that. What if your response isn't that right now, Pastor Chris? What if your response is, well, because Jesus told me to do it, I'll do it, but
Right.
I really would rather not. But I know Jesus told me to, and so
Yeah.
how do you mature more
Well, I
as a
think
Christian?
I think we're all in different places, right? There's some that would do it, and there's some that wouldn't. And I think that it's like I said a while ago, it's a process, and it's only something that's going to happen through the Spirit. And we have to pray, Lord, give me a heart for this person, because right now I don't have a heart for him, and it's just something that you're going to have to help me with, because I am not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of us aren't. A lot of us struggle with, would you help someone that's done you a great wrong,
Right.
especially recently? And that's a challenge.
That's the challenge.
But if you have Christ in your heart and you're able to, you don't even have to be fully forgiven in that process to have compassion
Right.
for someone that's been totally wronged. I think that's so important as Christians that we have that level of compassion. Shifting gears here, I'm doing a study with a local college, a local group of college leaders, And one of the twists that we put on it, similar to the twist that you put on the Good Samaritan story, was I talked about a character trait of a great leader in college, a great leader on a sports team in college. And that character trait was basically, who do you see on your team that when you have a great emergency in your life or you're facing something that could be devastating, who would you select to go through that with you? That's a transformational leader. And then my next question was, who would pick you to be the person that they want to go through the toughest stage of their life with?
Right.
And I think that moment of turning that from, everybody could think about someone that they would want to put on their team
Right.
if they're going through one of life's great challenges. Could be a loss or an illness, something like that, beyond sports, right? But when it gets flipped to, is that you? Can you be that person? That's Christ's compassion. That's Christ's compassion in your heart.
Yeah.
So if you're a college student and you're used to easy access on the phones and kind of superficial knowledge, which is kind of cool, we're all addicted to phones in some level. Think about the deeper meaning of life, because as my parents told me, bad stuff in life happens.
Right.
There's 3 kinds of adversity that we're going to go through. And that is the kind of adversity that you just finished, the kind of adversity that you're dealing with today, and the kind of adversity that you don't even know is coming down the road.
Right.
3 kinds of trouble, 3 kinds of adversity.
Yeah. You're either in a storm, or you're coming out of a storm, or you're about to go into one.
Right. So because of that, if you're a college-age person, a young person, the number one thing that you can do to be indispensable to humanity is to be a person that can be relied on when the chips are down.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know how people go through life without a church family, because, churches, you were talking about that a while ago, it sometimes seems that church just wants your money, right? That they just want, give me, give to me. And when it comes time, we don't really know you, and it's hard for them to get help from the church when they really need it. And I feel like church should be, you should pick a church that's going to have your back. It's going to be real church family, because it's all fun and games until you need help, and then you need for the church to be there for you. And I feel like our church 913 is always there for its people and there to help in any way that we can.
Consider this. Society is full of charlatans, and culture is full of people that'll take your money
Right.
and run with it. They will take your money in Bernie Madoff style and Ponzi scheme you, right?
Right.
I have yet to tithe to my church and go broke.
Right.
I've yet to give to World Vision or another Christian charity that's making a difference in people's lives throughout the world. I've never done that and then wished that I hadn't,
Right.
or thought that I was being taken advantage of. God loves a cheerful giver,
Yes.
and He doesn't want you to give if it's not in your heart to give.
Right.
He wants it to come from good intentions. But our society creates really bad feelings about giving, because on the news you see the scams.
Right.
Right? Scam artists are
There's gonna
everywhere.
be
They're trying to
scammers
get you
everywhere.
to send them money to their kingdom in Djibouti, where they've been taken captive.
Yeah.
There's emails being, people are always trying to scheme you. The one place that's not trying to scheme you is the church. The church is not trying to scheme you. The church is there for you. The church is there for the community. And so many churches are rebuilding communities that have been devastated by acts of nature or in the war zones. So I know it's a sensitive subject for a pastor, because you don't want to be perceived as asking for money all the time. but it's something that as a mature Christian, it's never hurt me to give to my church. In fact, I've always found myself to be much more enriched, and that's not why I give, but I've always found myself to be much more enriched by tithing than at a loss from the result of tithing.
Right, and you hit it. You said the Lord loves a cheerful giver, and we should give from our heart. And there are those ministries that they want you to give so that they can have a new jet and stuff like that. So I'm not after a jet. So we.
Damon Wayans says you need that jet so you can be close to the higher power. You got to go up.
Got to go up.
For a company jet. Now, how do you explain that?
Well, see, that simply allows us to get to the higher power.
That's right.
See, the Lord don't always want to come down to you. You think you can just bow your head and he show up all the time?
It's a lie.
Well, sometimes he say, come on up to my place.
Yeah, but there's a blessing in giving. So when you give, God gives back. But we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't give to get. Is what I'm getting at. It should come from the heart.
Right.
Pastors and all the rest of the administrative people for that church will have to answer to God for what they did with that money. So we have to be good stewards of the money that we receive, because we'll have to stand tall in front of the man one day and explain why we did what we did.
So a lot to digest today.
Yeah.
A lot to digest. But the Good Samaritan is a good start for any young believer who's trying to understand the gospel and understand the church and Jesus Christ. And the church is meant to come alongside people who are going through a minute in life that's just not helpful.
Right.
And that's why I'm in ministry. I'm in ministry because I want to help people. I want to serve people in my community. I know you are too. We're called to do that. It's not just I want to do it. I want to help people. It's a calling. It's in my heart to help people in my community to live lives that help them to prosper and that help them to resist the wickedness of the world.
Yep.
And all you need to do is walk down the Las Vegas Strip for 45 minutes to see the wickedness of the world.
To see the lostness.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many lost people.
Right. When we talked about living in harmony with one another and encouraging one another, serving one another, that all stems from love. Like you gotta ultimately have love to be able to do all the rest of the one another's that are prevalent in Scripture.
3 kinds of love, though.
3 kinds of love.
What love are you talking about?
I'm talking about agape love. Agape love, that's a selfless love. It's an unconditional kind of love. It's a love that cares.
And that's the
for
love.
people.
That's the love that God has for us.
That's the love that God has for us. That's the kind of love that went to the cross for us when we should have been doing it for ourselves, right? We should have been taking that punishment on ourselves, and Jesus went, nope.
So there's grace and
I'll do
mercy, forgiveness.
Grace, mercy, forgiveness.
So that's why in the 2 commandments of Jesus, he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Because the source of that love that you're loving your neighbor is coming from God. And if you love God, and he's already loved us, then you're going to share that love. And so the 2 go hand in hand.
Right.
So I think if the church wants to know how to impact the lives of college students, it's got to look at how can we love college students. And I think Johnny Brown at Campus Connection 838 is a great example. Johnny and Tammy Brown in that ministry. They serve over 100 kids in college each week. Food that they prepare.
Food's a good way to show love.
Yeah, and they do a Bible study.
Yeah.
Where they introduce different concepts of the Bible.
Right.
And you don't have to stay for the Bible study. You can just come and receive nourishment. But if you stay, you receive a different kind of nourishment.
Right. Yeah.
But they invite the kids to their home, and they've essentially sacrificed their careers just to have a ministry where they work with college students. Yeah. And how do they get the college students there? They're always on campus taking pictures and creating relationships there. And it's a really bright light that they shine in the lives of, let's say if there's 100 kids from JU that go there, that's 5% of the student body.
Yeah.
5% of a college's campus is going to receive that nourishment. And, because they're just not going to church, not physically going to church. So the church has to physically go to them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're a great ministry. Mm-hmm. Great ministry. It's a tough ministry.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's a challenge. You're going head to head with a lot of woke ideological folks, and that is a battle that a lot of people these days will not fight. They'll back down because they get guilted by woke ideology.
Right.
The premise of it.
Yeah. If you don't know Jesus, you ain't really woke.
Yeah, that's true.
Wake up.
Yeah. No, that's the great awakening
Yep.
that we talk about is knowing Jesus and the gift of love. Woke ideology is essentially the same thing that Jesus said without any love.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's similar, but just take the love away.
Right.
There's no redemption in wokeism. None. So pray for college students, and if you're a college student, pray for your peers. Ask that Christ come into their life. Ask that Christ be a part of your life, and that you would be an example to someone on campus that needs you. Remember that great leadership isn't just you recognizing leaders around you, but it's you being someone that if others fell on hard times, that they would want you to be on their team, that they would turn to you for help and support and for love. And that's what we want our churches to feel like too.
We'll end with this. We're going to have a sunrise service, 6:45 at Dolphin Plaza in Hanna Park. So come out for that. Bring your coffee, bring your chair, and we're going to have sunrise worship on Easter Sunday morning there. And we're going to be talking about rolling back the stone. Ooh. And we all have a stone in our life that we need to have rolled away. So come out and join us Easter Sunday morning, Dolphin Plaza and
Hanna Park. And Hanna Park is an entry fee?
Entry fee, yes.
So I think there's like cash. I think it's $5 for a car.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're a college student and you want to experience this, pack as many people as you can into your minivan and roll right in there. It ends up being about $1 a piece, or maybe 75 cents each. So inexpensive there. I promise you, you won't leave without a refreshed spirit.
Well, it's been good talking with you this morning, CP. My brother, Dallas Cowboy, back in the day.
Back in the day.
See, I didn't know he was playing for the Dallas Cowboys, or else I wouldn't have hated him so much.
Yeah, I thought I was your neighbor.
Yeah. Love your neighbor. Loving your neighbor means tickets,
Love your neighbor with some tickets. Well, enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast, and we hope that it brings you some nourishment for your spirit and your soul. And we're happy to be here, and thank you for your support.
We love you. Go love others the way that Jesus loves us.
Amen.